Look, I've been voting for 64 years. Never really wanted to talk about it very much. But when dozens of former members of the Trump administration are sounding alarms, saying, for God's sake, don't do this again, you have to pay attention.
I'm actually pausing it. There is the old sin of using the Lord's name in vain, and I don't care that these are godless people. As a matter of principle, you shouldn't even do it, even if you don't believe in God. Look at how dramatic he is. This is his best performance since The Fugitive. This man is so excited to be back in the spotlight. He hasn't been this excited since Return of the Sith. I don't even know if that's a movie. I'll let it play out now. Listen to these arrogant people who fancy themselves as gods. This is idolatry of oneself. This is self-worship right here. I've been voting for 64 years. How many times did you vote Republican in those 64 years, Harrison Ford?
They're telling us something important. These aren't soft people.
Oh, no. Look at this performative rubbish. This man just came back from the doctor. I'm going to live. I was not told to calm down. I was not told to stop drinking caffeinated beverages. I'm just going to let it play. I'm going to shut my big mouth.
They're governors, generals, standing up against the leader of the party they spent their lives advocating for. For many of them, this will be the first time they've ever voted for someone who doesn't have an R next to their name, because they know this really matters.
I can't. I'm sorry. The intro video is over. These people are performative, self-idolatry people who fancy themselves as gods. I had something to say about that. Oh yeah, in the chat, someone said he's got paid $7 million. I don't know that to be true. So until I know that to be true, I'll Google that while we're, maybe later tonight. They are pathetic and desperate. The point that I wanted to make with Harrison Ford coming out with his best performance ever. They're going to give Oscar awards for the best Kamala Harris endorsement. This jackanini is out there relying on the people who have been lying to the American people forever. General Milley. General Milley lied to the president of the United States. That's seditious, treasonous behavior at best. These are the people that Harrison Ford is listening to. The ones who sabotaged Trump's presidency are the ones coming out now and saying that they can't vote for Trump. Of course they can't vote for Trump. They'll be in jail if Trump gets into office and they actually prosecute people for crimes, real crimes, not fake crimes like making memes that upset lefty morons who don't know that you don't text in your vote. All right, we're going to get there in a second. Douglas Mackey. Ricky Vaughn, baby. Ricky Vaughn is coming on, and we're gonna. I've wanted to do this one since we started covering the story. I need to remember where Frank T.J. Mackey was from, because that's whenever I think of Douglas Mackey, I think of Frank T.J. Mackey, and I think it was the movie. Oh, someone on the chat will get to it. But before we even get there, I got to thank the two sponsors of today's show: Be Naked and Positive. These are both Rumble partners. Parallel economy, build it. Spend your money with companies that respect you as a human. Not even you as a client, you as a human. Be Naked everywhere you look. They're trying to sand down men's rough edges and serve up mediocrity like it's something to be proud of. Low testosterone, weak mindset, participation trophies galore, and this idea that tough is outdated. It's all part of the agenda, but if you're not interested in playing by those rules, you need naked organs. 100% pure bison organs in a supplement format: liver, kidney, heart, the kind of primal fuel that built men into people who handled business without waiting for permission. Loaded with B12, iron, zinc. It's the ultimate kick in the ass to low testosterone and watered down sissy culture. Stay strong, stay sharp, keep your edge. Head over to benaked.com, use promo code VIVA and grab 15% off. Time to rise above the noise and get back to being unstoppable and unapologetically male, masculine, nothing to be ashamed of, all to be proud of. benaked.com, promo code VIVA. And don't just take care of yourselves, people. Take care of your pets. Another parallel economy partner of Rumble. Positive. If you flipped over a bag of dog treats, the fine print reads like a bag of science fiction plot. Artificial colors, cancer-causing preservatives, and fillers that are basically the hot dog water of the pet world. BHA, BHT, fuck is it? I can't even pronounce half of this nonsense. It sounds like a lab experiment, not a snack. That's why Positive's superfood waffles are made with real, simple, human-grade ingredients, less than 6 in each recipe, 0 artificial flavors, preservatives, and colors. Blueberry Bliss combined with goat's milk, oats, blueberries, and bananas for brain-boosting treat, turmeric twist, and beetroot berry. Each use a blend of ingredients focused on joint health, digestion, and giving dogs the nutrients that they need. We love our pets. We love them as much and sometimes more than people. And when the government comes in and steals your squirrel and your raccoon and then euthanizes them, that can upset an entire nation. And sorry, sidetrack. If your dog needs a boost, get the Bison Topper made from bison organs to support healthy skin and muscle growth. It's like a ribeye of the dog world. Go to Positive, PAWSITIVE.com. Promo code VIVA gets you 15% off, because if you're like me, you want your dogs to be happy, healthy, and around for as long as possible, even if they're paralyzed and blind, as both of my dogs respectively are. Positive.com, promo code VIVA for 15% off. All right, dudes. Have I seen him in real life? I've seen pictures of him. He looks surprisingly nice for what the internet says. Douglas Mackey, people. You may know him from such memes as texting your vote to get 4 months in jail. So I shouldn't laugh at his misery, but we're going to have a bit of a laugh. Douglas, you ready to come in?
So I'm all set. Thank you.
Sir, we've never met before, but it feels like I have been following you on the internet for many, many years now. How goes the battle?
It's going well. It's going fine. We're just waiting on the court decision, but we can get onto all that.
Oh,
the battle never ends.
Douglas, first of all, I don't know you from a hole in the wall. I feel like there's things that I should know about you, but I'm going to ask a lot of questions. If any of them are too invasive, you'll let me know. Great. The first question is, you spell your name Douglas with 2 S's?
Yes. So that's a family thing. Comes from my mom's side of the family.
And now, if I may ask, because I love origin stories, and not to be invasive, and if you don't want to answer the questions, Douglas Mackey, it is of Scottish-Irish descent, or am I wrong?
Yeah, Scotch-Irish. That's a very Scottish name. You can't get more Scottish than that. I've got some other things, German and Scandinavian and what have you, English, of course. But yeah, that's the Douglas clan and the Mackey clan.
I love it because I've never seen it with 2 S's, but I had to look into it. How many generations American? Like, where are you born? Where are you raised? What's childhood like?
So my family, parts of my family go way back to, Pennsylvania, Dutch, German, and some of them were maybe more recent, like turn of the 19th century from Scots, like I said, Scotch-Irish. But most of my ancestors go back pretty far in America. I was born in DC, but we moved to Colorado at a young age. And then Vermont was where I spent the 2000s, which is basically middle school, high school. I also went to college in Vermont. And so that's sort of where my background. My parents were from Vermont. That's why they moved back there.
Okay. Your parents are still alive?
Yes.
Okay. And won't ask siblings that. We're going to get into all this stuff, because when you become prominent, I imagine the entire family starts to get harassed and berated. May I ask how old you are?
35.
35 years young. What were you like? We're going to get into this. We'll dabble back and forth. But what were you doing in life when this all started? Like, how did the Ricky Vaughn Twitter handle come to be? Was it always anonymous, or was it always associated with you? Like, how did you get into that sphere in the first place?
Yeah, it was always anonymous. It goes back a long way to 2014. And I just signed up there to basically just read people's posts that were interesting. I read a lot of, politics, from the libertarian politics back in the day, going back to college. And so I was just following those types of people, and then sort of Trump came along and jumped onto that movement. So that's kind of how it goes back to 2014, the Twitter account. But I didn't really use it for a while until 2015, really.
Okay. And what are you doing in life at that point? So this is a decade ago. So you're 27. I forgot how old you are now, but you're in your 20s at this point.
Yeah, I was pretty young, like 24, 25. So I was I lived in New York after college. I moved to New York City. And I spent about 6 or 7 years there. So I was working at a small economic consulting firm there in Brooklyn, New York. And I just living in New York City. And this is kind of like just what I did on my free time a little bit.
All right. And what were you doing? What were you doing for work, if I may ask?
So I was I guess you could say I was an economist, but it was just sort of like an analyst. We would do economic impact studies mostly. That was kind of what we did. So I was sort of like an analyst there.
Okay, very cool. At a not it doesn't matter size or whatever, but you're at a company where obviously you want to keep your internet activity disconnected from your professional life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's a small company, very small.
How long had you been in New York for?
So I moved there in 2011.
Okay, so 2011, and you studied economics where again? In New York or in Vermont?
In Vermont, Middlebury College.
All right, I know. Oh, I'm from Montreal, so I used to drive through there all the time, and Middlebury
Yeah.
was not far away.
And when we turned 18, we drove to Montreal.
Oh, you didn't need to be 18 in Montreal. You needed to look 14, and you'd get a pass at least at the corner stores with the dépanneurs that we would call them. So, family conservative? Had you always been conservative, or not necessarily political?
So my family is not necessarily very political. I would say they're liberal to moderate, mostly. And so I was sort of, sort of in that milieu. So in high school, middle school, kind of, and Bush was president. It was not very popular. So I leaned more towards liberal, but I was kind of open. I sort of was a little bit disillusioned by, with Barack Obama. I didn't support Barack Obama. I didn't support John McCain either. That would have been the first election that I would have been eligible to vote. I got more into libertarian politics at that point in time, and I followed Ron Paul for a while until they sort of moved over towards more conservative leaning politics. But, still libertarian in the sense of American liberties and civil liberties and all that kind of stuff. And economics, of course.
Very cool. My goodness, the first election that you could have voted in would have been Obama.
That's right. 2008.
And are you in New York at the time of Obama rising to power?
I was in college still in Vermont.
Okay. Vermont is okay. Well, we'll make it into the transformation of Vermont because it's an interesting thing. So you never libertarian, not liberal, definitely not conservative. Your folks would have been liberal and not libertarian.
Liberal to moderate, mostly. Yeah, moderate. I would say they're pretty down the middle.
Okay, and I've got to ask because it's going to be on my mind. Do you have siblings? If you are comfortable disclosing.
Yeah, I have 2 siblings, younger siblings.
Okay, I gotta know the toll that this has taken on a family, or what? I don't know how. Okay, yeah. All right. So 2015 comes around. By the way, Frank T.J. Mackey was Tom Cruise's character from. Was Tom Cruise's character from Magnolia, one of the greatest characters ever played.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Have you seen Magnolia?
No.
People will call it pretentious, and people will call me pretentious for it's one of my top 10 movies of all time. It's beautiful, and Tom Cruise's character, it's the best character he's ever played. And there's one scene, it's his best movie performance ever. But I digress. So 2015, you start getting into the internet meme world. 2016 comes around. Now I'm trying to think of this. Okay, so how do you develop such a massive following on Twitter?
So the whole thing was I kind of threw everything at the wall. I posted frequently, all the time, and that was just sort of like I had a mix of humor and also just news, analysis, memes that were funny. So it was just kind of like and I look back on it now, and I was younger at the time, but also sort of a Charlie Sheen's character in Major League sort of thing, where it's just like sort of pure id, like just throwing the fastball and not caring so much. Now I say I've matured a little bit more, but back then it was kind of just like throwing the fastball, wild pitches all over the place.
Okay, and so edgy. We were all. I don't think I was actually guilty of too many edgy memes. Yeah, no, like people forget what the internet was like back in 2010, where I don't hold very many, old, edgy or even offensive tweets against people. But it's funny how they can get weaponized when they want to get weaponized. So the idea behind this particular tweet, the impugned tweet, does it give you distress to look at it?
No, it's fine.
You don't say like, what if I had just not done it? I would be everything would be so much different. This is the impugned tweet, or at least the image. And it says, "At the Ricky Vaughn, thanks for spreading the word." This might have been a retweet, but you put together this meme, and it says, save time, avoid the line, vote from home, text Hillary. I don't even want to load it with a my own opinion. What motivated that, or what was the idea behind it? What spawned the idea?
So the funny thing is that this was not even my idea. I didn't create this meme. I wish I had better Photoshop skills personally. This was just a meme that was floating around on the internet. When I saw it, I thought it was funny. I saw it on 4chan because back then they had this thread called the Donald, and I think they might still do. But anyway, I was always looking for memes that I could post on Twitter. So sometimes I would go on the Donald and find the memes that were funny. And so that's what I did one day. And 2 memes, one was like that one in English and another was in Spanish. And I just posted them. And the funny thing is, to this account, my original account was suspended a month prior, which, it had 62,000 followers. That one was crazy. Like, the engagement was crazy. My second account at that time only had 12 or 14,000, not as much engagement. So this was definitely posted. This was posted as an inside joke. Maybe, it can get like retweeted and like, provoke the left or provoke the Clinton campaign. Like, anytime you post something like that, there's an outside shot that it could provoke them. Probably I wouldn't bet on it, but this one happened to do that.
I just for the sake of it, when did you get charged?
Oh, great question. 7 days after Joe Biden was inaugurated.
So I mean, you got charged 4 years later for the tweet. Exactly.
4 years later, 7 days after Biden was inaugurated, and there's a knock on the door at 7 a.m. from the FBI.
I can swear. What time? It's fucking ridiculous, because I'm sitting here, I'm trying to refresh my memory on all this. I'm like, oh no, this was the Biden election that you tweeted that. But I remember Hillary Clinton's face being on the tweet, and like, holy shit, they waited. They decided after 4 years to prosecute you for a 2016 tweet. The election had long come and gone. Do you remember the tweet from she's an Asian stand-up comic, and it's still up. I'm trying to find her name, where she put up a video and said, "Hey guys, I've gone MAGA." Do you remember what her name is offhand?
Yeah, it's Christina Wong.
Christina Wong. I'm going to find that while we talk.
Not the Christina Wong from Breitbart.
Okay. Because I just want to that one's still up. No charges. So you are living life as though for 4 freaking years you go living life, and then you get a knock on the door the day after the inauguration of Joe Biden, and it's the FBI.
Yeah, unbelievable. FBI, 7 a.m. Open up. FBI, open up.
Okay.
It's hard to believe.
No, it's hard to believe because like it's so far away. I don't want to ask like what you thought they were there for, because there's not in a million years did you think they were there for the tweet? Like, it's not even on your radar.
No, exactly. And I thought, they brought this new administration into power. They're cracking down on all these J6ers running around arresting them. I was like, what is going on here? I was nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th. So why are they at my door?
That is now it all actually makes a whole hell of a lot more sense. This is the week after Biden. This is after Jan 6, where they're coming down, not just on Jan 6ers. Okay. FBI comes, knocks on you at 7 o'clock in the morning.
7 o'clock in the morning.
What day of the week?
Oh, it could have been like a Wednesday.
Okay. Not a Saturday or a Sunday.
No.
All right. You open the door, or do they kick it down?
No, I opened the door.
And you're in your pajamas. Oh yeah. God, this is it. They come to your apartment because oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. It's funny. Your misery is going to be the source of at least some amusement for how many of them?
I had 2 roommates.
No, how many FBI agents?
So good question. This is funny. There were 2 from New York who were investigating. 2 were from Florida. I'm just going to grab my drink here. 2 were from Florida. Because I'm in Florida now. I lived in Florida since 2018. And so, the local agents do the arrest, and the New York ones just ride along. And then they also bring along local law enforcement. So there's like local police, 5 or 6 local police. It's really quite a scene, a production. And sadly, a few days prior to me getting arrested, some pedophile like shot through the door and like killed some Florida FBI agents. So I think they were a little on edge, but they came on the door, knocked 7, and there's like 10 people out there.
That is the most insane thing. Now, so this is 2021. Hold on, 2020. It's 2021.
Exactly.
You're in Florida, living a life that The account had still been active. The Twitter account had still been active in the last 4 years.
No, so this Twitter account, it kind of came to an end in 2018. I mean, my account was getting suspended back in the day. Twitter accounts were getting suspended all the time. But sort of, I ended the Ricky Vaughn persona in 2018.
Holy hell! They come. Do they look like they feel ashamed of themselves to be there, or do they look like power tripping Gestapo agents who are just reveling in what they're about to do to you?
You know, I really didn't understand. And the Florida guys, I don't think they understood at all. The two women who were wearing these like khaki pants and like Vans sneakers or something, they were totally sort of power hungry. They were really kind of mad, crazy. And, you know, it's funny. We got the discovery from the FBI, and then they actually left a few things out during the trial. So we were pressing them. They took pictures of like, you know, religious things in my house. And like, they sat my roommates down on the couch. They were like, oh, what do you know about this? What, and they're like, my roommates, you know, to their credit, refused to talk to these people, but they were crazy. And it's like, you're investigating this meme as if it's some kind of drug cartel or something. And, you know, the funny thing is the chief prosecutor, he does white collar crime, like fraud and stuff. And he's digging through like ridiculous memes and direct messages as evidence in trial. And it's like, the whole thing is such a farce. It was hard to believe.
Let me bring this up. I found it. I thought maybe she deleted it. Hold on. It's right here. This is Christina Wong's video.
Color for Trump.
Here we go. November 8, 2016.
Hey, everybody. This is Christina Wong. And I'm coming out. I'm a Trump supporter. And I just want to remind all my fellow Chinese Americans for Trump, people of color for Trump, to vote. Vote for Trump on Wednesday, November 9th. Really important day. We're going to show this country who's boss. And that's our man, Donald Trump. So don't forget to vote Donald Trump on November 9th.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out is looks like she posted on November 8th, 2016. I don't remember what day of the week or what date I'm not making excuses.
Yeah, it was in the morning. She posted in the morning.
So she posts that, never anything that it's still up. I mean, I just watched it. It's still on the internet. They come to your door. The agents, the women look like they were happy with the power. And I could just picture like you're a white cisgender religious
we got
male.
her tweet into evidence at my trial. We actually got her tweet into evidence.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna. Oh, you got Christina Wong's tweet into evidence, and it does nothing. Exactly. They'll say, "Oh, if they come for Christina, we'll convict her too."
Yeah.
So what happens? They show up, and then how long does it take for them to disclose that they're there for a tweet?
So I was like, so the first words out of my mouth are, "For what? You know, we have a warrant for your arrest. For what? Oh, boy, you know, you'll find out basically when we get down to the courthouse, whatever." And, you know, they ask you these questions when you're in the car ride. And the New York agents are like, so are you ready to talk? And I'm like, the lady from New York, I'm like, no, like, obviously I'm not going to talk to you. But, you know, the local guys on the way to the courthouse, you know, they ask you a few questions like, how tall are you? You know, this kind of thing. And so, you know, I'm able to peek at his piece of paper like this, and it's like conspiracy against civil rights or something like that. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And so we go through the whole arraignment, and the judge is like, you know, they're talking about all this stuff. And then I look at you know, you have the right to look at the indictment, or in this case, there wasn't even an indictment. It was a criminal complaint. And I can tell you why they do a criminal complaint, actually, but we can get into all that. But
yeah, I presume the criminal complaint, they don't have to go to a grand jury or something. I mean, they can just, it takes one complainant?
Exactly. And the thing about a criminal complaint is it's the kind of thing where it's like that you can file a criminal complaint. Like if, you know, the defendant or the accused is, you know, you think he's going to flee, let's say. So you can go and arrest him on a criminal complaint. And this is what they do. They love doing this. They did it for a lot of J6ers. They'll file a criminal complaint so they can go and just have this big, showy, flashy arrest.
Holy crap. So when do you realize and when do you fully appreciate it's because of the tweet? Is it at the courthouse or on the way down you get the idea?
So after the arraignment, so I'm sitting there in the holding cell for like, it felt like 3 hours. It was probably like 1 hour because of COVID. There were all these delays. And then you go through the arraignment. There's like the AUSA, who is local at the time. She's like, oh, Your Honor, we found a gun in his home and stuff. And it's like, the judge is like, well, is there any indication that it's illegal? And he's like, no. They're like, oh, okay. It's like, so you have to give up your guns when you're indicted under these charges for a felony. So after the whole rigmarole, all this crazy stuff, and they're like, okay, you're free to go. And the U.S. What's it called, warden or whatever, marshal, is taking off my leg irons. And before they do that, they slap a criminal complaint in your hand, 30-page criminal complaint. And so I'm like reading through this complaint, like in sheer disbelief, and honestly, and how dishonest the criminal complaint was as well. I was completely. You're talking about disinformation. I mean, I understand that's what they do. They collect evidence and try to build a case against you, no matter what it And you can look at it, and you're like, this is completely ridiculous. But that was the moment that I found out. This is because of two memes that I probably just forgot. It's not that I had entirely forgotten about them, but you move on with your life. It's like two memes. Your life goes on. You don't think it's a crime to send a joke, like a parody meme, on the internet.
I also sort of got distracted at the leg irons. They put you in leg irons.
Yeah. So at my house, they handcuffed me, right?
Of course.
And I guess as like when you get to the courthouse, federal courthouse, they take you out of the handcuffs and they put you in leg irons, and then they put you in a holding cell.
This is did they put a face mask on you in case you're going to eat
Oh, yeah.
one of the agents?
Oh, yeah, 2021. No, they do a face mask because of COVID.
No, I was going with like the Hannibal Lecter bars on the mouth type mask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so then you get the 30-page, whatever they call it, criminal complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Flesh it out for us. I remember reading through it at the time. It's the biggest load of fiat I've ever seen. I don't want to get you in trouble because you're still you're going through an appeal, and I have to show deference to the outrageously weaponized court system that did this to you. Tell us, like, just go through it. Like, what did they allege, and what was absolutely ridiculous in it?
So what was really ridiculous about this is what they do in these conspiracy is they're allowed to bring in all sorts of evidence that they call background. And it's like, this is how the conspiracy, so it's like, you can imagine some mobsters, they're doing conspiracy for murder or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, they met at the pizza parlor, or they do business. But in this case, it was like, they met online. They started sharing memes in direct message groups. And they did a meme that said that Taylor Swift was endorsing Trump and she was wearing a MAGA hat. And then they did a meme where, Hillary Clinton was going to draft our daughters to fight against Putin. And this was the background of the criminal complaint. Completely absurd. And they're like, oh yeah, all these people. And then at trial, they say, oh yeah, all that's First Amendment protected, except for this meme here with the, whatever. And then they say, if I was saying things like in 2016, which is just, things that are so obvious, like if black turnout is lower, then Trump is probably going to win. And they introduce these tweets as evidence to say like, oh, see, this tweet was targeting black women, because the tweet actually has a black women on it. It's like I said, I didn't even make the tweet. Another one with a Spanish lady on it, and it's in Spanish. And so they say this is the evidence that he was he didn't want he was trying to target. He didn't want these people voting. He was targeting them with his meme, and it's a conspiracy. So they say that it was if I did this by myself, like if I was just sitting in my basement, 400 pounds, and just making these memes and doing it by myself, they would say it's not even a crime. It's only a crime when there's an agreement, because it's a conspiracy law. So it's complete weaponization of the statute and abuse of it, a novel abuse of the statute.
Conspiracy. It was conspiracy to violate civil rights, because it was a conspiracy to get, they had to say conspiracy because they didn't have one example of any concrete individual who was actually duped and screwed out of their civil right, correct? There was not one element of evidence of anyone who actually fell for it.
Exactly. And this is a big problem because, in criminal law, when speech is outlawed, it's usually it has to be like an identifiable harm. Like, for example, fraud. If I defraud you of your money, there's a harm there. You lost your money. I took your money from you. So, there's no cognizable harm here. They just said that as soon as there was an agreement to deceive people from actually voting out of not actually voting, then there's a crime.
It's amazing. not one person was duped. They had a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, and they went around. The juicy thing is that we asked for the discovery. We're like, show us where anybody you interviewed that texted them in, because we knew they were going around interviewing these people, right? And they gave us the FBI 302s, which is like internet interview reports, and they would knock on someone's door and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, my son is autistic." And they talk to the son, and he's like, "I don't remember posting the meeting where they say, 'Oh, did you think that you could vote by text?'" And the person would say, "Like, no, I'm not stupid. I didn't think you could vote by text." They went around and they pulled up their voter file, right, and see if and you're going through these, and they only interviewed like 16 people, and most of them voted. The only one that didn't vote didn't have a voter record. So it was completely absurd. Just think about the resources that took to go around and knock on someone's door, and they're freaked out, right? Because the FBI's at their door, like, "Did you vote by text to the 2016 election?" And they couldn't find a single person to put on the witness stand.
It's amazing. Douglas, what we're going to do now, I'm going to end this on YouTube because we don't need to grace the commie tube with our eyeballs any longer. Come on over to Rumble or